So this is MECH 1301 Mechanic Statics. So my name is Muhammad Saifuddin. I will be the lecturer for section 1. This is section 1, right? If you have access already, because how many of you, because I think some only register manual in this week, so I'm not sure whether you are on iTa'lim yet, because the link to the Google Classroom is given in iTa'lim, right? So I think how many? 18. Kita ada 27 ke apa. So some of you have access. Now, hopefully try to have the access as soon as possible. Okay, so far I think you have the link to Google Classroom as well as the Telegram group, right? So if you haven't, right after the class, etc., let's try to have those access. Because all the material, one is already being given in Google Classroom. So in the Google Classroom, you can see those material in terms of course overview, resources, etc. Now, here, course outline. So we'll just go through the course outline quickly. Right, okay. So what are the important movements? Now, because all of these are available, you can go through yourself. I'll just highlight certain important things. Now, these are the learning outcomes. You can read on your own, but I would like to... Now, I would like to highlight several things. When the learning outcome specifies certain element, those are the elements that we need to test you, and the marks will reflect on those items. For example, if you have to compute, analyze, etc., that's normal. But there are also things like this: draw free body diagram, meaning that the drawing itself will give you significant marks, and the failure to draw properly will make you lose significant marks. Even though you calculate the number of the answer correct, but if the drawing in front is problematic, you'll still lose significant mark. So make sure you understand that, so that you are not surprised later on. Why so markah banyak hilang sebab apa, jawapan betul? Tapi because there are elements like that, meaning we do not just want you to know how to calculate things, but also to draw certain things, and specifically free body diagram, right? So in statics, one of the most important thing is free body diagram. And the rest you can read what elements you have to know. Okay, we'll touch a bit more on the percentage, etc. But I think you can see here, quiz will give you 20%, midterm 30%, and final exam 50%. Now, the way it is structured, if you go through any of your course outline, you'll see something like this, right? Learning time, meaning that of course you have 28 hours of lecture because you have 14 weeks. 14 weeks. Sorry, lecture plus classwork. Okay, so it becomes 42, right? Kalau tu berapa? Because you have 14 weeks times 42 ni berapa? 3 So you can calculate. But you also have something that is okay. You have quizzes, you have midterm, and you have final exam. Okay, this is the preparation for, this is the actual final exam. We have 3 hours and 2 hours. There will be some changes for this semester. We'll go through the slide after this. But there are some preparation time that is expected, and there are also some problem solving self-study time. Now, do not be surprised in courses like this if you just depend on the class without your own study time on your own, doing practices, etc. It's quite difficult to actually score, because the nature of, I think, mathematics-based subject is like that. If you lack exercises, maybe you understand the concept, but in the exam you may fail to do it correctly or do it in time, right? So that's the thing. So hopefully you are aware of that. The rest is scheduled, so you have all the chapters. Now, the book that we'll be using is Hibbeler, by Hibbeler. Ideally, it is best to have the textbook, because you can go through the concept as well as the example, and then you have a lot of problem you can try. But if you don't have the textbook, it's still possible. But yeah, so one is the different type of questions that you can try. You may be limited to that if you don't have the textbook, unless you borrow or photocopy or something. So just know that one. Alright, so that's the course outline. In terms of the assessment, so as mentioned, the quiz, midterm and final. So basically quiz will give you 20%. Now midterm and final will be centralized, meaning because we have I think 3 sections for this semester. So midterm and final we will be having together with all the 3 sections, but quizzes will be in each individual class. So quiz may differ significantly between section lah, right? Especially if the lecture is different, sometimes the way the quiz is done is different. But the midterm and final will be centralized. Now, important. This policy have been for several years already. I think before it was not like this, but now it is that passing the final exam is a requirement to pass the subject or the keluar. Meaning what? Meaning that even if you score full quiz and full midterm, you get 50%, and then you get like some mark in the final. In total, you have passing marks, meaning above 50. But if the final exam itself you fail, meaning it's below 50% or 25, you still fail, right? So in the last semester, I think there's 1 or 2 that is in that category lah. So please make sure you understand this, and we will see later on, because the nature of the chapter that is being covered for earlier part and the later part is quite different. So some student is okay with the chapter earlier but struggle with the later chapter, and some student are the opposite. So make sure you do what you can and what you need to pass. And for example, integration will normally come in later part. So siapa yang suka integration kena tunggu sikit lah. So that's an example. Now in the midterm, normally we have 1 midterm in the middle of the semester, but this semester the lecturer for statics have decided to change this so that we have 2 midterm. So one will meaning each will give 50%, 50%. So meaning that you will have one is quite early, one is right after the normal midterm for other subject. This is because based on the several years of observation, normally when it is observed when the students, I'm not sure how to, meaning psychologically only after the midterm marks you realize whether you are okay or not with the subject, and sometimes it's too late when it's already half of the semester. So this is to trigger if you didn't realize you have some problem with the subject, you realize it early on. So either you have, best case scenario in that situation is you rectify what you need to rectify, or worst case scenario is I hope you already know the policy in terms of dropping the subject and withdraw the subject, because there's certain period where you can you can drop, certain period you have to pay something to withdraw, and then later on you have to pay more, etc. Right? I'm not saying this to promote dropping, etc. But it depends on, because I think some students drop or withdraw to avoid the, on the transcript something coming out, etc. Right? Now, in terms of the approach of this class, we are using flipped classroom approach. Are you familiar with this? How many of you are familiar? Tak pernah? Semua tak pernah dengar? Seorang pun tak pernah dengar? Alright, so from the picture, can you guess what it is? Dia terbalik Okay. So in my class, I for several years I have used this approach actually. So traditionally, you come to class, you have the lecture, and afterwards you have the activity. Flipped classroom basically it's flipped, meaning that before coming to class, you have to cover the lecture first, and then in the class, it's more focused on the activity, meaning that solving problem, doing exercises, normally you do after class. Normally you cover the theory, and then some example, and then you practice afterwards. But in flipped classroom, the theory you have to already cover before coming to class. In the class, anything you do not understand, you can ask, and then we focus on solving problems. Now, so there are several slides for this one. In terms of my function also, it will be a bit different, right? So meaning that in the traditional classroom, the lecturer or the teacher become the center lah, because macam ni lah, saya cakap semua dengar je kan. Right, you have to just to listen throughout. But in flipped classroom, normally, ideally speaking, the teacher become like the guide, meaning that because different students have different problem or different focal point to understand, etc., etc. You might want to try different type of question, etc. So it becomes more student-centered compared to teacher-centered lah. So that's the fundamental difference. So one thing that is critical if the class is using flipped classroom is that before class you have to cover this one, because otherwise you come to class and you do not understand what's going on, right? Because you have to cover the lecture before class. Alright, so these are several things. Right. So the implication is that it demands a bit more of independence for the students, meaning that you have to really plan and allocate your time to cover this one before coming to class, right? I think because I started this approach before the pandemic, and some students commented that the lecture becomes they cover it sambil-sambil baring atas katil. It's fine however you want to cover it, but I think the good student normally when they come to class, because normally when you come to class or you cover a lecture, you will take notes, right? So that's the expected mode lah, meaning that's a proper way. And then you come to class, you can still already ask what exact things that you don't understand. So we resolve that, and then you can practice the questions. Now, from my observation, for those who are willing to have that level of independence and do the preparation, they get better preparation for the subject, because in the class, whenever you are stuck with any question, you can straight away ask the lecturer lah. But for those who are not able to do this, then they struggle more, because dia hilang punca lah. So that's the thing. Alright, so any feedback on that? Okay, in terms of the resources, one is, I think we have shown the Google Classroom, so there are many things there. One is overview, so if you want to see the course outline, it's already there. Semester schedule is already there. And normally I try to put this normally quite early on, so that kalau ada yang tengok macam, because these are more of past students' comment after they have gone through the semester. So if you go through and you see that okay, lecturer ni baik lari, so you ada masa lah untuk drop ke tukar section ke apa . So that's the idea, to be fair to the student. Now, in terms of the resources, in terms of PowerPoints, for example, so you have the slides already there. Semua slide, all the slides for all the chapters that we will cover in this semester is already there. So chapter 1 to 4, if you click there, for example, tak apa, nanti kita tunjuk. Ni kita cover. Okay, so the lecture slide is already there. The lecture and tutorial video is already there as well. We'll go about that after this a little bit. And then tutorial slash PowerPoint pun ada kat situ. Now, if you even want to practice with past midterm exam and past final exam, is already there as well. And this one is just, normally I record the session in case anyone who MC or just want to go back and see what you want to recall from the class, it will put in this playlist, right? So all the materials is being provided, tinggal nak guna tak guna je lah, right? So it's up to you whether how far you want to go and you want to excel, right? Now, these are the lecture video, and the classroom normally will be recorded lah. But if anyone have a problem with that, takut nanti nampak nanti penyanyi lari daripada isteri apa kan, takut kena cari ke apa, so begitulah. Now, alright, so let's take a look at this one. Now, there are several ways to, okay, we'll go straight to schedule. Now, in terms of the schedule, now, each week, okay, several things. One is, for this semester, somehow we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Monday that is holiday. So we already lost 5 classes lah. Maknanya 5 darab berapa jam kelas tu somehow hilang. So no, that's the way to cover about that. One is we have to make a replacement class, which is quite difficult because you have different schedule, etc. So I have structured in a way that all the materials will be covered in the remaining session lah, bila dah tolak tu but it will be very, very packed and very, very, especially towards the end. Normally we don't have something like this, satu chapter sini, satu chapter sini. Memang you kena perah otak sikit lah, because normally we allocate chapter 8, chapter 7, meaning you have 1 week to digest one chapter, right? But somehow it have become like this. So that's one thing. So meaning that make sure that you do not fall behind, because if you tertinggal kat belakang, bila sampai sini memang innalillah lah. So that's one thing. And second, you can already know exactly what topic we will be covering in each lecture lah. For example, in the next lecture, we'll have these two. Okay, all this link going back to the lecture that you need to cover before the class. So for example, for this link, it will bring back to I didn't write in the schedule the topic, but if you go to the video, internet kat sini okay ke? So you can see here, nampaknya okay, 2.1 to 2.3, and lagi satu ni uh, 2.4 kot, 2.4, 2.5 So that is to be covered before next class, and so on. Now normally there's only one, but this because the recording is basically split into the subsection. Make sure you take a look at that early before you plan when to cover the lecture, because the length of the video is not necessarily the same lah, sebab some of the topic is longer to explain than some of the topic. So yeah, alright, so that's the schedule. Okay, now several things. This is the, take note of the date straight away, because this will be the date of the midterm. The first midterm will be on Thursday, 10 November, which means one month from now, is it? 1 month from now. So we have 1 month. So it will be covering chapter 1 to 3. Now, compared to previously, when the midterm is normally here, it will cover until chapter 4 or 5. So it can be easier lah for you, because it only cover the very base, the fundamental chapter. Chapter 1 to 3 is normally, most of it is what you have learned before. So please make sure that you really score this one lah. So this is one. So make sure you take note of this. And I'm not sure whether any of you have any Koku class on Thursday night. If you have, please notify us so that we can give you excuse letter to that coordinator lah. So this is first midterm. Of course, you can take a look at the schedule in the Google Classroom. And the second midterm is this 15th of December. So it will cover until chapter 5. Now, normally every exam will cover everything from 1 to something, but tendency the question tend to be more on the topic that is not yet covered before, and of course the final exam will be in January, right? Okay, so that's in terms of the schedule. Okay, so now this one is not necessary for you to watch because buang masa kalau nak tengok. Tapi kalau nak tengok boleh tengoklah what exactly the student commented. Anyway, so if you look at this one, so there's all the slides are here, but the number of the section, okay, you can, if you browse through, you can see lah. So this susun ni nama dia tak penuh. So this is chapter 1 and so on, right? This is chapter 1 to 4, chapter 5 to 10, similarly. Now, this one will bring you, if you click here, it will bring you to the playlist where the recording for the class as well as the tutorial. So for example, yeah, the class normally start at chapter 2. Because chapter 1 we will cover today, but it's more of the concept. It doesn't have any calculation, etc. So now the way that is, okay, if you go through this playlist, this two is bonus I got, additional, just because I notice many students when they come, even though you have learned trigonometry before or integration, but somehow after the exam they delete and then empty the recycle bin dan dah tak ingat. So this is important because when you come to course like this, we will not teach you this. We expect you to know how to use integration. So the question simply apply, right? So if you have forgotten that, please refresh the concept so that you can apply, right? Now, there will be mana pula mouse ni? Okay, something like that. This is the lecture video where from the schedule it will link you straight to any particular lecture, and this is the tutorial. Now, in the tutorial videos, for example, normally the title is tutorial here, like something like this, right? Now, the tutorial normally I actually take the past exam question for that chapter and will solve. Now, the thing is, this is done when it was online class. So during the class itself, so I just prepare all the tutorial questions so they can cover it, they can solve, and while watching the video, etc. And if they have any question, they can just ask me because I'm also online, right? So different students can cover different question, depend on which question they have problem with lah. But when we come back to class, so we will ask you after this, what type of mode that you prefer. Okay. Now the whole thing here is mostly like that. So you have lecture and tutorial. There are some additional, something like this. It's more of when I see some mistake happen again and again, the quiz, so I make note something like this lah. Short video saying do not do this kind of mistake. So it's up to you whether you want to watch it or not. And then in the end, we also have, but this is when the time comes lah. So this one for the past midterm, if you want to see how it is solved. So this midterm, final exam, right? So normally the suggested way is you just go and see the question, try on your own. For question that you have no problem, it's no problem. You can just go and see whether the answer match. But for the question where you are stuck, you can straight away go to, for example, I think because let's say, because it should be clear where the question is. Okay, so for example, this is question 1, this is question 1B, this question 2A. So you know where to go if you want to just, I don't want to see other question, I can just go straight, right? So that's use the resources that is available. Now, in terms of the question itself, okay, these are the slide, meaning that if you want to see what is the question that is covered in the tutorial video, you just can go through all of this, see the question, you can try on your own. For anything that you are stuck, you can go to the video. Okay, these are the past midterm question. You can also download this and try on your own if you have any problem. Because I only have 3 videos, so it's 3 of this for the midterm, and this is for the past final exam. Now, playlist here is just give you the playlist. Right now it's still empty actually, because the first video will be this one that will be uploaded. Alright, so that's the resources. Okay, in terms of the schedule, I have to go back. Kat mana tadi? Now, something happened. Okay, this is specific to this semester lah. Unfortunately, for these 3 classes, I have to do some site visit. Coincidentally, on this Monday, I have to go to Kuantan to visit Puspakom Kuantan. Here I have to visit Puspakom Kota Baru, and here I have to visit Puspakom Mat Mandin. So the next 2 weeks, unfortunately, I will be somewhere lah, doing site visit. Coincidentally, I have to finish off some inspection to Puspakom apa semua. Now, so in these 3 weeks. But the rest will continue as usual. So in these 3 weeks, so that's the question lah. What kind of, now in terms of the resources, it should be, meaning all the resources there should be sufficient lah. Meaning that during the time, I do hope you have the level of independence to, manage yourself. Bukan jadi you bercuti pula masa ni. Meaning that you have your lecture to cover, as well as the tutorial video as well, right? And if you need, okay, this is just an offer if you need. In case after you have covered this one, you actually need some help, real-time help. This one, even though, okay, I cannot do any class here, because officially, if you conduct official class during national holiday, it's a crime or something. But I can have an official class for anyone who want to have direct question, especially this one. Right? Now this one, normally if you see the topic, it's something that I have covered before, but it is so fundamental and important. If you struggle with this one, the rest, because every single chapter will use the fundamental here. If you have problem with IJK, IJK, the vector XYZ component, etc. And if you have force in something like this, do you know what is the X component, Y component, Z component, something like that? If you struggle with that one, you will struggle with the whole thing, because the whole thing will always use that thing, right? So in the past, now I think I'm not sure whether this is a Malay thing or something. Some of us are shy to ask even though we don't know, but that will be harming your own self. So make sure you ask early on if you have any problem. Now, my suggestion is, okay, another way to find this video, okay, is just because if you terlalu malas nak buka kalender nak pergi banyak link tu, if you go to YouTube, siapa dah cari nama saya ni? Okay, so so if you search my name, Saifuddin Rehan. If you look here, it will be the playlist for static lah. Mana pula ni? Okay, this one. Okay, there's several playlists that will be related to you. One is static, this one. So if you click this one, it will go back to apa yang kita dah tunjuk tadi. Now, I do hope that early on you cover this one. Meaning before next week. It's not compulsory, but I highly suggest, especially this one, because this one integration will cover in week 10, 11, 12, something like that. But this one will be using straight away, especially in 3D trigonometry. So make sure you really polish on that one. So this is one ni, and the rest is One playlist will appear here when, because I have put one playlist here in terms of the class recording, but because the video is not yet there, so the playlist is empty, so it doesn't appear there. The rest ni tak kisahlah. Now, nak cakap apa tadi? Alright, so going back, because another thing is the quiz. Now, in terms of the quiz, which is covered 20%, kita masa kita. Now, your class is from 8 to 10, is it? Yes. And or 9:50 basically, right? For Monday and Wednesday, right? So we are already 9. Okay. Now, for the quiz, this is how I conduct the quiz. First, it's not compulsory. Kata saya malas nak ambil quiz lah, tak apa, tak payah ambil. Tapi tak ada markah lah. I will not force you to take the quiz. So kalau tak ada mood, tak perlu Tapi there's no makeup quiz. Faham ke ni? Bukan makeup ni. If you miss any class that have the quiz, there will no makeup quiz lah. Now, another thing is in terms of late submission, because normally when I collect, ada yang masih menulis ke apa, normally I ask the student at the beginning of the semester, which approach do you prefer? One approach is late submission is not accepted. Maksudnya kalau okay, time's up, you tak hantar, tak apalah, simpan je lah. Itu tak accept. Another one that normally I apply is a deduction of marks. But deduction of marks, normally at the beginning the student say just deduct the mark, but later on they will complain because the deduction is quite significant, and normally when they receive the quiz, they never remember that they are the one that submit late. Kenapa tolak tak pasal-pasal kan, dia kata. So that's the thing. Now, if I do this, normally the mark deduction tend to tally with the amount of mark that is possible for you to get during that time. Contohnya macam if you know I have collected and then 30 seconds after you submitted, so normally in 30 seconds you can write one line which is 3 marks for example, then that's the deduction lah, regardless of whether you dapat ke tak markah tu kan. So sometimes it's worse to submit late lah because you kena tolak tu banyak. Anyway, so that's normally how I do. But the best case scenario is no case of this lah, tak ya, jangan submit je lah kan kalau dah. Now the issue is this is different lecturers have different approach in making quiz. Some is the quiz is for your free marks, almost free mark lah, maknanya you nak bagi you lose kan. My approach is quite the opposite. If you are familiar with assessment of learning and assessment for learning, can you differentiate? Assessment is test lah contohnya. Assessment of learning is the test is to see how much you have learned. Assessment for learning, the test is to push you to learn. So my approach tend to be a assessment for learning, meaning that setiap quiz tu macam conclusion dia, oh aku kena belajar lagi, faham kan? So dia biasanya susah lah. Gelak Pernah any lecturer before did this to you? Okay. Now, so the thing is, so the level of the question for the most quiz tend to almost replicate the exam lah. So it's not free mark punya quiz. And the time frame pun is just enough if you prepare. Meaning if you have prepared with the topic, the time is just enough. If you lack of preparation, normally it's not enough time lah. Normally, so that's why jadi banyak yang get submission dan sebagainya. Anyway, so I will take the best 8 quiz, meaning that no matter how much quiz do we do, your quiz mark for that 20% is your best 8 marks. Faham? Maknanya if you have 10 quiz for example, then your best 8 marks will be the marks that is taken for your 20% lah. The question is, how many quiz do you want? The minimum is 8 lah, sebab memang 8 je taken. The maximum is 24 ke apa? 28 kalau setiap kali buat kan. I think last semester we have 21 quiz. Where every class lah we have quiz kan. Okay, so just select how many quiz lah. Guna your phone, Gmenti.com, masuk kod atas tu 29973067 and just select just select. Okay, so far only one have 1, 2, 3. Now the implication is what? The implication is how often you have to prepare lah. But the good thing is of having more quiz is you ada lebih opportunity untuk dapat 8 tu lah. Maksudnya kalau awal-awal tu macam kantor je, lepas tu masih ada cukup. Kalau quiz tu sikit, dah habis peluang, dah habis lah kan. So that's the ni. Tarikh? Oh, itu depend nanti jap. Sebelum tu, because if the number is high, it's normally almost okay, because in our semester ni sebab kita dah ada 5 kelas hilang tu kan. So kita ada 14 minggu, 28, tolak yang 2 ni 26, tolak 5 20 macam tu. So kalau macam contohnya 17 ni almost every class lah. Macam 17 daripada 20 kelas kan. Normally the class yang tak ada quiz tu is the class yang macam musim tu musim midterm, you ada exam lain lah. Normally begitulah. Okay, so 24 of you, thank you very much. So alright, ada yang nak minta 8, 4, ada yang minta maximum. Alright, thank you very much for the response. Mana saya punya ni komputer zaman ni. Alright, now with that feedback, now especially combined with the fact that it's not compulsory for you to take any quiz. For example, even if I conduct any quiz, if you don't feel like adding some pressure or tension cover untuk masa tu, just ignore lah. Faham? Walaupun I don't understand student tu dia tak nak banyak quiz, tapi maknanya dia tak nak untuk semua orang lah. Maksudnya dia tak nak lah kawan dia lebih can kan. Kita tak, janganlah kisah orang lain. Anyway, so that's one thing. Now based on that and based on the number of class that we have, I think that would meaning 17 towards 22, it would mean that almost every class or almost you can assume ada quiz lah. Now the next question is time of the quiz lah. Time of the quiz. Now the way I approach the quiz normally is, for example, next week we will cover chapter 2.1 until 2.5 ke apa tadi? Apa tak ingat. Now, so you have covered the lecture before next Monday. On the Monday, as I expected that you already have covered exercises, etc. to make sure you know how to answer, and you have for example next week ni, because of what I have mentioned earlier, then the tutorial video is the help there, and then after that is straight away the quiz for that chapter. Normally how that's done lah, because I notice if I do the quiz later, meaning that the quiz for Monday that we covered, we do the quiz on Wednesday, no one will cover the lecture for that Wednesday lah, sebab semua sibuk quiz yang sebelum tu kan. So it have a problematic effect there. Now the quiz time. Now the suggestion is, because we have 2 hours of session, class session. My suggestion, my assumption is most students would prefer it to be macam to the later part of that class lah, bukan early on. So tak tahu nak anonymous ke dia tak kisah untuk just bersuara je. Mana dia pula dia pergi? Okay. For our class, because our class is from 8 to 9:50, right? Do you agree if we set the quiz at 9:20? Yeah. This is considering especially in the later part, the time some quiz can take up till 30 minutes. So if 9:20 it end 9:50, then you have that, you know, you end, and 9:50 to 10 you have the time to go to the next class lah. So that's the assumption. So kalau semua agree dan tak ada disagree, we can agree lah. Tapi kalau ada nak disagree tapi malah nak cakap depan-depan, ada yang tak kisah lah kan, whichever. Tapi kalau ada yang disagree especially, okay, so di sini sebab tak ada option, you nak lagi awal ke nak lagi lambat? Lagi lambat lagi? Lagi lambat pukul apa So I don't want to disturb the next class tu. Sebab kalau memang 9:50 it should be like it end 9:50. Sebab tu tak ada lecturer yang buat sampai exactly 10 kan, sebab some of you have class at 10. So yang disagree especially kalau ada nak voice out, otherwise I don't know what's the counter suggestion. Tapi susah pula kena bisik kemudian ke? Alright. Sebab nanti macam tak nak mengaku pula siapa seorang tu. Alright. So most agree. So if you have any disagreement, now one thing that I have earlier yang nak cakap pasal classroom activity. Now this is okay. Might as well I'll just ask you as well. Which do you prefer? This is outside of next week lah. Next week because terpaksa dengan cara macam tadi because I'm not here. But as now in class activity, there are 3 options that I can think of lah, or it can be mix of the 3. So just want to have your take on this. Because assuming that you have covered the lecture, for example, this is the class, right? You have covered the lecture video before. So, do you prefer that in the class, I actually solve some problem, like a normal tutorial session, or you tengok sendiri whichever video yang you want to watch, meaning, in this case, you have to have your own either phone or laptop or tablet and earphone lah, so that it's not disturbing others. Or, I don't know if any actually prefer group discussion. Because in one semester actually we have group discussion where tapi ada setengah group tu dia menyampah sebab group member dia tak berfunction kan. So now I'll just share the pro and cons. I think maybe many prefer that it's real time rather than recording. But the difference is if we go manually like this, then in the time we can only cover a certain number of questions, and it may be the question that you already have mastered or not, or something like that lah. So for example, if traditionally, because before I apply flipped classroom, it's just like this one, and I just prepare some example question as tutorial. So we'll just solve, and then you just follow through, right? So that question may be very much of help to you, but may not actually helpful for others, because they say I already don't know this one. I want to the more difficult, but we don't have time to go there. So that's just the pro and con. If you go covering which question that you want yourself, it's more flexible to you lah. But maybe the approach is not suitable to others. Now, giving the answer like this, so saya tak tahu. Dua orang ni duduk berdua lah kot. Because I'm not sure who. But okay. Okay, for those, because the majority are saying this one, right? Because even if I solve the problem, there are 2 possibilities. One is I decide myself which problem I want to solve, and then I just solve. Or you are the one, can you solve this one, right? Which one do you prefer? But the second one, you actually have to know which one you want to lah. Kalau datang memang betul-betul je, memang YouTube pun tak tahu nak suggest apa kan. But it's any comment on that? Ke tak kisah je? Saya duduk je dalam kelas ni. Okay, for this, anyone actually prefer, you know, because some of I think in the earlier chapter, the tutorial video, if you take a look, it's not that long because not many question from the earlier chapter actually got into the final exam, our midterm. Because if you notice, I mentioned all my tutorial video is solving past exam question. So normally in chapter 2, not that many from. So if you see the tutorial video, it's quite short. But in the later chapter, the video can be long because there's a lot of questions from the chapter in the exam, and you may prefer to go any particular question that you want. Now, if any student, tak kisah, if throughout the semester you want to change your position, etc., feel free to. Meaning that during the class session, I think what I'll do is I'll be solving in front. But for those who just you're not interested in that question, you want to watch a tutorial video of others, hopefully you have that Wi-Fi. You just watch on your own, but with your phone, no problem. And if any student doing that and have that question to ask, also no problem. Meaning you can just raise your hand. Can you clarify something? Is it okay? Something like that? Alright. Now, another thing. Apa dah? Is okay. Some of you, or perhaps a lot of you, those who taking this subject for the first time, but some taking for, I don't know, second time or third or fourth, I don't know. Now, for those who are in this situation, this is just how to say, an advice. You know, I'm not sure because and previously I tried to survey for those who repeat whether the issue is they struggle with specific chapter or they struggle with the whole thing. Because for those who are repeating and you only struggle with certain things, maybe during the week of chapter 2, 3, 4 is not helpful for you. So please do come and discuss with me so that I can hopefully help to just focus on where you need help to pass lah, right? So in case that is the issue, in case it's throughout, meaning that memang you tak faham satu abut pun, then perhaps just cover the material better this time around lah. Now, for those who are taking for this course for the first time, I think now every of you from Auto and Oro, right? Kalau yang new student, or is there any different courses? Which course are you from? Ke you pun tak set lagi? Sekejap. Banyak pula. Mechanical, right? Ke you tak pilih lagi mechanical ni apa? You tahu tak you ambil apa? Ambil apa? Mechanical. So auto or aero, mechanical auto lah. Ke either auto or aero you haven't, is not decided yet? Oh, okay. Best case scenario is make sure you pass in one go lah, because otherwise it will keep haunting you, even though it's not your strengths or yeah. So make sure, but this is apply to all of you, right? Make sure you do what you can to get A lah kalau boleh. The worst case scenario pun make sure you pass lah. Now statics, kalau you tanya sini-sini, it's somehow a subject that have quite a significant percentage of failure. Normally macam 40% kena repeat. So I'm not sure why. Macam setengah daripada you akan jumpa SEM depan lagi kan. So harapnya tak lah. Dan I keep thinking how to avoid that, but somehow SEM as a SEM, semua student suka ambil banyak kali kot. I pun tak tahu. So now, but so I have my guess why that happened. One thing about So the bizarre thing about this subject, even though it's first year, if I'm talking about mechanical, it's a core subject. But somehow ada student yang dia struggle dengan subjek ni, tapi dia boleh je score subjek lain. Yang sepatutnya the subject of second year, third year, fourth year is much difficult than first year, right? So and last semester there's one student that have, meaning he almost graduated, passed all the subject except statics. Pelik tak? Maksudnya dah nak grad tapi subjek first sem yang tak lepas-lepas. Now, I think one of the reason is for most of the subject, the question is quite confined to what you see in class. So dia ajar certain things and certain example, and the question will almost mirror that what you have seen. But in statistics, the question can be diverse, so diverse lah. Maknanya banyak student yang bila masuk exam, when they come to exam, gambar apa ni, something like that. Meaning that because the concept is the same, the fundamental is same, but the diagram is different. Kalau you faham, So some students are affected by that. Now, one of the things that you have to realize is mathematics is the core to ni lah. So, okay, for this one, normally in the first class, but this semester saya tak sempat nak prepare, I make a quiz to see whether you are ready to take statistics or not. So soalan dia basically macam trigonometry apa semua tu lah. But it's basic mathematics. So now I didn't prepare for this, but please take a look at at least the trigonometry video and see whether you can understand that, right? If you have problem, ask straight away. We have the Telegram group. You can ask there. I'll try to answer there. If you need to, make an appointment to resolve, please do so. Because, yeah. Now, okay, ni dah tak valid lah, right? Now, okay, our main channel is Google Classroom. I think the official one is iTaklim, but in iTaklim I give the link to Google Classroom. Ada benda lain ke? And then Telegram. So for those who are not yet especially in Google Classroom, because all the links is there. Okay, now in terms of the quiz, especially for next 2 weeks. Okay, as we mentioned, the quiz will be almost every week. So meaning the first quiz will be next Monday. But I really hope that the first few quiz you get 20 out of 20 lah. Basically the quiz is out of 20. Because it's something that you should have learned before about simple like additional of force, something like that, right? Now, but because I'm not here, so for the next 3 class, the quiz will be posted on Google Classroom at 9:20. Is that okay? And you have to submit, meaning that you write on your paper and just take a picture and then submit, upload to Google Form. Is that understood and is that okay? Of course, afterwards, if we are in the class, then normally it's just printed paper and you write there lah. Any question? Anything not clear about the quiz? So the first quiz will be next week, next Monday. Okay. What else? All right. So I think this is towards the end already. So this is just general advice as a Muslim. So life is a one-time offer. So hopefully you use it wisely. And I hope that you are serious about your purpose of life and do what is important and needed, inshallah. Now, in terms of textbook, I think I've mentioned. So this is the textbook that we'll be using. Just to get by this course, at least in my classes, I think all the resources, the slides, etc. is already available. But what is not available is, I think, in the textbook, one is there's, how to say, you can cover the theory like a lecture. Faham ke? Biasanya dia akan ajar sepatah-sepatah. Biasanya kalau buka textbook kan. So that's one. You should utilize that. And second, there are many different questions that you can try on your own. and normally dekat page belakang dia ada answer, you can check. So that's also hopefully kalau yang boleh, it's advice lah. Alright, so I think this is almost okay. This is the last slide. So as the final survey for today. Alright, so this is just a final survey. Feel free to give any feedback whatsoever. Now, in case any of you who just registered and the name is not there, ramai ke? I hope because if the office already settle it and you are being registered to the iTaklim, so you should get the link semua lah. But if not, then please refer to get where is the link to join the Google Classroom and also Telegram lah, so that you do not miss any info. Alright, so just give any feedback that you wish. Don't worry, I will not know who write that. And I think semua dah. Ada yang belum sign? So thank you very much. Cover, okay, so important thing before next Monday, the lecture video for Monday you have to cover, as well as apa itulah kot. And the tutorial video is up to you. If you have time and you want to cover as well, cover. Otherwise, you can cover during the class time. And the quiz will be at 9:20. Right? So, thank you very much. Jazakumullah khairan katsira. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.